Hey everyone, welcome to a live episode of Strong Style. I am the outlaw John Rocha, and I'm joined as always by my man down there in Orlando, somehow staying alive in Orlando down there. Aaron Turner, how are you, man?
I'm good, man. It's trying to stay out of public situations as much as possible, though I did go to the bank today. Quite easy process. Only because I had to.
Yeah.
Only because I absolutely had to.
Well, it helps when no one's in there too, right?
It's true, yeah. There wasn't that many people there.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing. You got Sasha on behind you. Well, for those of you who may be new to the show, this is a show we do every week talking about professional wrestling, the news stories going on in professional wrestling, and we revisit a classic match from wrestling's history and talk about the match, review the match, talk about what was going on before the match happened with the two combatants or the four combatants or the six combatants or the entire combatants, and then talk about the legacy of the match afterwards. Today, later on, we are going to talk about the Sasha Banks versus Bayley match at NXT Takeover Brooklyn. I'm so excited to talk about that. But before we get into that, we're going to cover a bunch of news going on in the world of sports entertainment or professional wrestling, whatever you want to say. Aaron, how are you overall, though, man? I mean, how are things down there? I know you said you went to the bank, but how are things overall, man? Orlando is one of those hotbeds right now. Or are you just kind of frustrated by it all? Do you sense a bit of fear going on down there? How are things over there?
I am really frustrated, dude, because I went to Target the other day because I had to return some. I only go places if I have to. That's like the rule now. Like it used to be kind of loosey goosey. Like I want to go somewhere just to get out of the house, but now it's like unless I absolutely have to. So I go to Target the other day and they have a big sign on the door, big banner that says, due to local, state, federal mandate, have to have a mask on or face covering to enter the store. So I was like, all right, cool, great. But it's one thing to have that sign. It's another to enforce it.
Yeah.
And I understand that, people that work at Target, probably a majority get paid a minimum wage or something above minimum wage, I would imagine. And you couldn't pay me enough to go tackle people without a mask on. So I understand that. But there are so many people in there that would have the mask like around their neck or just wouldn't have it on. And I'm just like, what in the hell is wrong with you? So I am very frustrated with that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's no different here in LA, brother. I mean, driving, we think we're so liberal and we're supposed to, and we'd all be adhering to the rules and making fun of people having their pool parties in Oklahoma. Well, I've driven through Hollywood, West Hollywood, the Valley, and I've seen people walking around without masks, no problem. I've seen people in restaurants. I've seen people in dining areas that don't have in Beverly Hills all the way to Burbank and North Hollywood. I've driven past and seen where they don't have 6 feet of separation between the tables. No one is wearing a mask other than the waiter. And it's just incredibly insane. And then we wonder how we've been spiking so high in Los Angeles County. It's because too many idiots think that they're scientists. They can't even balance their checkbook or figure out their figure out their Roku or their Apple TV or even their computer or their phone. And they're the ones that think they can tell you what you can do, when you can wear a mask or not wear a mask. They're morons. And it's frustrating because it's not shocking that in the most defiant places, the spikes are going higher and higher. Texas, Florida, California, a couple other states where the spikes are going higher and higher. And maybe we should segue into that story, Aaron, with the WWE. They were one of the most obstinate, obnoxious, stubborn companies who wanted to keep doing what they were doing under the guise of providing new content, and then got Ron DeSantis, the Republican governor down there in Florida, to approve them as an essential business and put these wrestlers and these talents' lives at stake. And sure enough, eventually you knew they were going to have some kind of run of people. And certainly right now we have 10 people who were on air talent and behind the camera talent who tested positive, and maybe more from the WWE, one of the most notable ones being Renee Young.
Yeah, Renee Young said on Twitter that she tested positive for COVID-19. It's also worth noting that WWE Backstage was canceled, was taken off this week. So, shout out to we got friends that work at Backstage.
Ryan Satin,
that work there. So sucks for them. But Renee tweeted out. She said, "I lost my job earlier this week on Backstage, and now I have COVID-19." So it's like, God, what a punch in the face.
Yeah.
But her husband, John Moxley, the former Dean Ambrose, does not have it. He's negative. He was not on Dynamite this weekend because of that, for precautionary sake. And what else? Jamie Noble also tested positive, said that he tested positive. He's a backstage agent for COVID-19. So, damn, man, like, yes, we are here in Orlando, Florida, and there's a lot of craziness going on, a lot of unease going on right now. And not only that, but one of the positive things that WWE's done, if you've seen the pictures, they're taping a lot of shows tonight, SmackDown, Raw, for the next couple of weeks, I'm sure, to get out of Dodge. But a lot of the talent, the NXT talent that have been in the crowd are wearing masks this time.
Finally.
Jessie Kamea, an NXT talent, is wearing a mask. In her photograph, Shotzi Blackheart was wearing a mask as well that she posted. So it looks like either they're mandating that you have to wear them, or people just for their own damn safety are wearing masks, which, I mean, it's whatever. I mean, we argued about the optics of it. We argued about what that looks like on TV, but at the end of the day, like, who really gives a shit? Like, we're talking about people's lives. Over almost 140,000 people have died in the United States for this bullshit. So better safe than sorry, but you knew eventually it was going to come to the WWE because they don't test.
They don't test.
Like AEW does. Yeah, they don't test. AEW does. You have to get a special wristband to even be allowed on set. So what that means now with Florida today, almost 9,000 coronavirus cases, the most that we've had so far for any state. It blows my mind. Like, I don't know how you continue with WWE taping these. I don't know how AEW continues. I don't know what to do.
Yeah, and it's frustrating. I know what to do. Arrest Vince. It's the stupidest thing in the world. It's so frustrating to me because he has put these people's lives at risk. And yes, you could say, well, they're adults. They make their own decisions. Bullshit. If you're the owner of a company, your responsibility is to keep your employees safe. If you've put them in unsafe work environments, then absolutely, I think every single person who tested positive should sue the pants, should sue the grapefruits off of Vince and make their money off of them so they never have to wrestle again. Get $1 million, invest it wisely, and you never have to put your body at risk again. That's what you should do. That's what all of them should do. But I bet Vince and the people up there, the intelligentsia, had them all sign waivers that they were taking. They were not going to sue the WWE if they got it. They were not, just like Trump with the stupid waivers he had people sign for that Tulsa rally that no one went to. He had people sign that stuff. And you saw it. And that's the kind of thing that's super frustrating overall, because you've got some great talent, some young talents. I mean, someone in the chat just said Caleb Broxton has had it twice. I don't know if that's true or verifiable, but that may be true. But someone like Renee Young, who, by the way, is your jewel of a host. It's not Michael Cole. It's Renee Young, who came from Canada. She was a sports announcer. She is so good at her job. They handed her the backstage. I mean, rather, she earned it, obviously, but they gave her the backstage lead host role here, and she flourished. She's great at this stuff. And you put someone at that top of the pecking order at risk was ridiculous. I bet Vince wasn't getting himself in close contact with these people. I bet Triple H or Stephanie and their kids, I bet, weren't getting close to these people. But here we go. The wrestlers all do it. Why? Because Vince has those connections to Trump. Linda was the small business head of the small business administration there for Trump. Vince is good friends with Trump. Ron DeSantis is hooked up with Trump. So they use their political means in a corrupt way, in my opinion, to keep the WWE open and look at all these people getting sick. And now all of a sudden, they're doing better testing, or they're going to implement better testing and have masks, but they're still going to keep doing their program, Aaron, putting people at risk. And if this is why he doesn't want unions, this is why he doesn't want overall government oversight on his thing, so he can do what he wants to these people who he sees predominantly as just numbers on a ledger or cattle for him to use. And it's super frustrating to watch, man, because you see Cody's not doing that. Cody cares about the wrestlers. Why? Because Cody was a wrestler. He doesn't see them as just an ends to a means or a profit on a ledger. That's my 2 cents. I'm sorry to go off on it. It just frustrates me, man.
Well, I understand your frustration. I mean, especially here, I mean, I can only speak for Florida. Like, I know they pushed Disneyland is opening. They're going to push the Disneyland opening back a few weeks or months or whatever. Right. But Disney World is still on schedule. Universal's still open. SeaWorld is still open. And it kind of makes you shake your head as to, like, what in the hell is going on here? And if you watch, I know we're supposed to talk about wrestling, but if you watch the briefing today from the COVID-19 committee or task force, whatever the hell that was, not exactly confidence going on in that group meeting. A little bit scary. I was talking with some friends today. Like, it's just, like you try to get out of this funk. Like, you're all happy. Like, oh, things are opening back up. All right, we're gonna get a little normal. We're gonna wear masks. It's gonna be weird for a bit, but it will be okay. Then it just keeps spiking, and you're like, dude, are we ever?
Of course, we're not if people don't start adhering to the rules. All those countries are opening up because 95% or even 90% adhered to the rules, understood that if they didn't adhere, they might die. They might catch this thing. They weren't self-entitled, elitist, what do you call it? I don't know, just so self-centered people who were like, you're not going to tell me to wear a mask. You know what? You're messing with God's breathing system that he put in my body. Stupid excuses like that, stupid reasons like that, because they don't want to wear a mask. You can't go into places without wearing shoes or a shirt, for God's sake. So what the hell's the difference with putting on a mask? And you only have to put it on when you get out of the car, go into the store, and then get back in the car. You can take it right off. This I can't breathe bullshit that they're putting, or their physical it's all bullshit. There are plenty of masks that you can get that will work for any physical condition you have for you to wear a mask. So there is no excuse for it overall, Aaron. And this is all happening. The spikes are re-happening because people rushed politically to open things too quickly. WWE part of it as well. They wouldn't listen. They refused to listen. Vince didn't want to lose his money. He just lost the XFL and he wanted to keep going. But if he had set up a system where these wrestlers could keep making money, could be furloughed or what have you, or could be unemployed and collect unemployment while they stayed alive in that way, that would have been possible. But he doesn't give a shit about his workforce for the most part. And so he doesn't want to set up those situations where this workforce could actually be taken care of by the man who's giving them employment. And don't be surprised if by the end of this whole thing, more people go over to AEW and feel more taken care of. The second Cody takes this thing to the next level, people will jump ship on the WWE in a heartbeat. I just think it's inevitable. If he stays in charge, Vince, I think it's inevitable.
I don't know if I'm ready to go that far, but you also have to look at WWE talent as they're not actually employees of the WWE. They are independent contractors, so they couldn't even get furloughs unless you were like a referee or somebody in upper management that actually has like the plan or the their insurance and stuff like that. Like they can't even get furloughed, so it's like you're in a no-win situation. It's like if you don't go to work, then you can't make money and you can't live. And if you do go to work, you have a possibility of getting this disease and spreading it to your family or God knows who or God knows what. Yeah. And there's no end in sight. Like, I don't know how, as a WWE talent or as an AEW talent right now, you look at this and you're not scared. I don't know how. Even AEW that tests and everybody before they come on set and all this stuff, you're still in close proximity with all these people at all times. And it's like, if you see this in Florida, Jacksonville be damned, Orlando be damned. Like, they're not that far away from each other, man. Like, like I don't know what these places are going to do. I don't know what the talent's going to do. Hopefully, people, the management in these companies shut it down. Like I was talking to a friend of mine today, and I was like, do we just need John Taffer? Do we just need John Taffer from Bar Rescue to run in and just be like, listen, we're shutting it down. We're shutting it all down. Like, is that who we need to come in here? Is that who people will listen to? John friggin' Taffer? Because I would love a John Taffer to come in and just shut everything down for a couple of weeks until we can figure something out.
Yeah, I agree with you. And WWE issued a statement that they neither confirmed nor denied the reported positive tests, but issued the following statement. The WWE will continue COVID-19 testing of its talent, production, and employees in advance of TV productions for the foreseeable future. They began emailing talent and staff, this is according to PW Insider, advising them that there had been a new COVID-19 positive test result, advising them to again get tested for COVID-19. We are told that not all talents were contacted at the same time. Irresponsible as hell. We have since heard that there have been multiple positives coming out of the new round of tests in the 24 range. Of course, Wrestling Sheet reported that as well. They were the first ones to break the story, giving credit over there to Ryan Satin and the great crew over there. But they are expected, the people who are tested are expected to isolate. One WWE talent, this is from the Wrestling Observer, noted that they were told COVID-19 testing will now take place at every testing, and they were expected to isolate. How was it not taking place at every testing before, Aaron? And they stay in their rooms or homes at this point if they test positive. One person said that they've been told they would be tested twice this week. Those in Orlando today were given a 2-hour heads up for a mandatory test. So in addition, the site note says that this week's SmackDown episode would likely need to be written in the wake of the positive. So clearly, there's name talent who tested positive beyond Renee Young here in this situation.
Yeah, it just seems like they're not ready to say who. Like, you got to think also, like, Seth Rollins is a guy that's getting ready to have a child. Kevin Owens has 2 young kids at home. Yeah, and it's just like, do you really want to do this kind of stuff? I mean, I hate this. Like, Charlotte Flair has an elderly father,
right?
Like, is this something that we want to do?
Yeah. Sorry, Aaron,
I mean,
go ahead.
No, it's fine. I understand, but like, is it something that you want to do? Like, I hate this. I hate this stuff. Like, I just wish we could go a week without talking about it. Like, you turn on the news cycle, it's all you hear about because it's everywhere and it's not going anywhere if we don't take it seriously. So, wash your damn hands, put on your damn mask, like, do the whole deal. Like, there's no excuse for not having like hand sanitizer now and all that kind of stuff. I went to Five Below. They had a friggin' 4 crates of it sitting there. So don't tell me you can't get it, because you can.
You can get it. Yeah.
It's just follow the basic steps, guys. It's really not hard. It's inconvenient, but it's not the end of the fucking world. But if we don't do it, it will be the end of the world, it seems like.
Someone made a joke on social media. They were like, you can no longer use this line in a disaster movie. Oh, they avoided that like the plague. Because apparently we don't avoid things like the plague, because we don't avoid the plague at all. We're just, overall, just a bunch of stupid Americans costing lives. And eventually some lawyer is trying to figure out how to sue these people. I know it. I know some lawyer is trying to figure out how to track catching the virus from someone who's irresponsible, or a company that's irresponsible with employees that are irresponsible, so they can sue the pants off them. I know there is. Kayla Braxton, to confirm what a couple of people have already said in the chat here, she revealed she did have coronavirus twice. She said, was keeping it quiet, but since everyone else is sharing, I feel like it is my responsibility to share this PSA. You can get COVID-19 more than once. I had it back in early March and then thought I was invincible after I recovered. Not true. Don't be dumb like me. I think she tweeted that. And then WWE producer Adam Pearce also confirmed on Twitter that he tested positive for COVID-19. And the matches are going on as scheduled. There'll be a SmackDown taping tonight, Raw taping on Monday, a SmackDown taping on Tuesday. So clearly this fool doesn't get the message, and he's just going to keep doing it till someone dies right in front of his arms. What happens if Stephanie gets this? What happens if one of Stephanie's kids get this? Is that when he wakes up? Is that when he stops putting these people at risk? It's so frustrating, man.
When is Vince McMahon going to challenge COVID-19 to a cage match or some crazy crap? Like, I'm surprised he hasn't spun it at this point. Like,
I'll take Hell in a Cell. I mean, put Vince in there with coronavirus and Hell in a Cell. I'm down.
Isn't it weird? Let me ask you this. Like, even now the landscape of WWE and just entertainment in general, isn't it weird that people aren't like acknowledging that COVID-19 exists, or like they call it like this or that or this thing, this era that we're in? I'm like, dude, it's COVID-19. Like, why are you pretending like it doesn't exist?
Yeah.
Like,
I think people are unsettled by actually saying the word, and are unsettled by coronavirus, the word, of COVID-19, the word. They're just unsettled by uttering it. Maybe in some messed up way in their minds, if they utter it, they think they're going to get it. Like they're calling it down upon themselves. You know how weird people can be in entertainment. They think they can conjure that stuff out of thin air. And so, they think if they say it, they're going to bring it upon themselves or upon their family, so they're not mentioning it. And they're talking about this era, this time, all that kind of stuff. So it's just frustrating overall. And I agree with you. You're right. I mean, a lot of people, and maybe a lot of people aren't saying it too, because they know there are people who are patrons of that entertainment who don't want to hear you talk about it, or don't want to hear you mention it. Just say this era as if it was put upon them and somehow unavoidable. And we know from the beginning, it could have been unavoidable. We know there would have been less bodies, less deaths overall if we had jumped on this right off the bat without political worry or political implications and just handled this thing. And now you hear that, homie and the president is going to defund testing centers in 5 states. So, in an effort to try to drive the numbers down to delude the people that they're handling it. And man, it's just frustrating. American lives, American citizens are dying at the hands for some stupid election. And it's just driving me insane, because these are husbands, fathers, mothers, wives, sisters, brothers, children who may die because of carelessness from the top down. And in a microcosm, the WWE is like that. What if one of these named wrestlers actually dies from this, man? Wrestlers have died from less,
Listen, man, like this week started out awesome because it was like, hey, Michael Keaton's back as Batman. I'm like, hell yeah, like this week rules. 2020 is saved. And then it was like thing after thing after thing after thing. And I was like, like by the end of the week, like by today, like in the morning, I was pretty depressed this morning. Like I didn't know what was going on. Like,
yeah, Aaron, every one of us has those days once a week, I think, where we just wake up and go, fuck it, man, just fuck it. You know, it's like you feel helpless because you don't know where the bow is going to break too, because financially we can't keep giving out unemployment to people and before over 50 states. Eventually the economy is going to crack open, and that's when the madness will really happen. And I'm not talking about macho madness. I'm talking actual madness. And God help us all if that happens. Dodger Ryan 124 sent in a super chat here, Aaron. He said, I agree, Aaron or Walter Peck from Ghostbusters to come in. Just shut it down. Shut everything down. Yeah,
That's it. Bring it in. Bring it down. Vince McMahon has no dick. Whatever you want to say. Just whatever you got to do to this man has no dick. Whatever you have to do to shut it down, man. Shut it down. God, like, don't you think? And I'm asking people in the chat. I'm asking everybody. Like, do you honestly think we can do without WWE, AEW, blah blah blah? We can do without that for a month or two. Like, I think we'll be fine. We have the WWE Network. Yeah, we'll live, man. We've lived without movies since March. I think we can live without wrestling for a little bit. It'll be fine.
It's all about Vince's making that money. It's all about Vince's profit. His status as a billionaire or a multi-millionaire. It's also the board. They want to make their money. Look, if the board said, "Screw you, we're shutting this whole thing down before we get our asses suit off," Vince would have no say on this, and they'd have to shut it down. Of course, he'd pretend like it was his decision, but they'd have no say in this thing. So if the board decided to shut it down, that's what needs to happen here. Someone who supersedes Vince needs to get together, not in a storyline way either. A legitimate board step in and shut him down.
Well, when you own the most shares of the company, you can still do whatever the hell you want.
I guess you're right about that.
Board or not.
Another super chat from Tommy Tom. Thank you, Tom. Hey, always good to see you in here, my brother. Young supposedly was negative for WWE COVID test, but tested positive at home from Vegas test the Monday after, and Pierce found out on his birthday. That could be another thing, Aaron, and I hate to even think about it, that the WWE is telling people to hide tests for certain people if they test positive because they need them on air. They need the on-air talent. If that's true, Lord God Almighty, man, that is beyond negligence and somewhere near accessory to murder or possible or attempted murder, for God's sake. So that's a whole nother conversation to have for sure. But I'm not saying that's happening. I'm saying it's weird to be positive, be negative to the WWE test and positive the next day on a regular test. Maybe the WWE test doesn't go far enough. That could be another way to look at this as well. Yeah, I agree with you, Aaron.
You think those mesothelioma commercials are annoying? Wait till you get to the have you or your family been affected by COVID-19? That'll be for the rest of your damn life.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what my father died of. So I hate those commercials already. So throw the coronavirus ones in there. That make me even more depressed for sure. One thing I want to say here, hey guys, we've got the super chats, we've got the Streamlabs up. Help us pick our spirits up. Send in some money for Aaron and I to help us out to end this Friday. I've been going for 8 hours. I've been going for 8 hours doing show after show after show today, and I'd love to have a little fun with you guys. So send in your super chat, send in your Streamlabs, ask us some crazy questions as we go through this show. It won't all be negative, but there's a lot of negative stuff that happens. What's next, brother man?
Well, let's try. This is slightly not as negative, but so Charlotte Flair announced this week that she's going to take an elective surgery and she's going to be out of action for an extended period of time. Yep. From what I'm reading here on Pro Wrestling Sheet, shout out to Ryan again, that according to PW Insider, this is where he got this from, that it is an elective procedure. It is nothing serious or anything like that, but she's going to take an extended break and she will be back around Royal Rumble 2021. Now, they wrote her off in storyline as like a collarbone injury, so we're not really sure what it is. Could be like a nagging back injury. Could have been something that happened a long time ago. But the Queen, who has been really a workhorse, her, Sasha, Bayley, Zelina Vega have been really workhorses since WrestleMania for the company, Charlotte being on all three shows. So it is some well-deserved time off, and if you're in the place where all the cases are spiking and stuff like that, it's probably good enough to get the hell out of Dodge right now. So well-deserved break for the Queen.
Absolutely. And, you know, here's one of the things to think about as well with Charlotte. Look, I know some people have been going after Charlotte over the last few months, but what Aaron says is true. She is a workhorse for the company. You know, Becky supersedes her position and Charlotte has to take it. It must be a very difficult, it must have been a very difficult thing to have been the prime female wrestler and then have to all of a sudden have someone completely somersault you to the point where that person transcends the business at times. It must upset you and overwhelm you, especially a lifer like Charlotte Flair seems to be. Also, with people getting injured and people stepping aside and people going to have babies, it's Charlotte who has to kind of carry the mantle for a while, and she's been willing to go up and down, go down into NXT, back up into the main roster, and deliver great matches or deliver damn good matches consistently. Yeah, I've been at times one of the people that is like, oh, do we need to see Charlotte versus Becky again? Is it Charlotte's ego? Whatever. But now in retrospect, as you're watching how she's really committed herself to the company and the workhorse she's been, I think those comments and those negative thoughts need to go away completely. She's done incredible work to try to keep the women's division alive and try to keep the WWE alive itself. So yeah, a much deserved break. Let her rest. Let her, let the injury have the surgery on it, and let her, of course, spend time with her boy too as well. So develop and build that relationship even stronger. She deserves it, dude.
Yeah, definitely, no doubt. So she could spend some time with Andrade, her real life guy. But I mean, it doesn't stop. She's an athlete, so she's going to keep going. It just kind of makes me wonder, like, what is this? Is this some kind of like long-term thing that's been nagging for a while? Is it a knee? Is it a back? Because going from, we're almost to July, so it's almost, she's gonna be gone half a year, more or less. So it's got to be something serious. So I hope that she gets to recover from it, because she does do a lot of different, she's a former gymnast, volleyball player, so she contorts her body in different ways that are different than normal people. So I just hope that she's going to be able to come back at 100% and still do some of that stuff that we're used to seeing her do.
It's a very good point, Aaron. You're right. She does do that. Tommy Tom said, at least we have the Empress still. Sorry, Aaron.
Hey, no hate on Asuka. I love Asuka.
Respect. I will say, but we wish her a speedy recovery and stay safe. Stay safe, stay home.
Yeah.
Don't get yourself any of this stuff, because you're right. Passing it on to Rick would just be devastating for so many people in the world who love Flair still. All right. What's our next thing, man?
Okay, so we're going from an injury to, we're going to talk about Sammy Guevara pretty quick. An interesting thing that came out this week. Sammy Guevara from a podcast in 2016 surfaced where AEW star Sammy Guevara spoke of. There's no way to put it. Just of raping Sasha Banks. Back in 2016, Sammy Guevara had a tryout with WWE, and he spoke of going to the Performance Center, and he saw Sasha Banks there. Said, "Oh man, I mean, I just looked at her, and I thought about raping her." Like, I don't even know where to begin with this guy. Like, I don't know where he. I don't like. Okay, it's one thing. It's one thing to say, wow, that's Sasha Banks. She's a very attractive lady.
Yeah.
Correct. Check mark. Yes, it's correct. Another thing to say, I would like to rape her. Like, what? How do you go from one to the other? Like, I don't understand this, and I don't know how you. Dude, I got nothing for this. Like, I got nothing here.
I will attempt to explain it to you. Not that I understand this logic, but more like, you get older and you understand men a bit more. And young men sometimes, they joke about doing some terrible things to women. They think it's funny because they see women as things they can hunt and go after and seduce and try to get more notches on their belt to try to sleep with them, trick them into bed. We see it all the time. Lord, there's not a man alive who has a friend or have friends, male friends who've been able to sleep with women who couldn't tell you stories about how some of these guys lied to these girls to get them in bed or promised them something or whatever. That happens all the time. So they start to see women as, not like, to a degree, not really human. They see them as objects to be attained or to have or to use for sex. And so in that moment when he's making his joke, he's essentially showing how immature he is as a human being and as a man. And that he thinks he can look at a woman who's beautiful and say to himself, you know what? I can't even get a woman like that. I'd have to rape her. And that's a terrible truth. And that speaks volumes more about Sammy Guevara, obviously, than it ever does about Sasha. Sasha being incredibly beautiful and certainly in fantastic shape and a woman who works very hard to be so. But Sammy, at that time, certainly young man thinking he's swaggering around, thinking he can make jokes with his boys about raping a woman like Sasha because she's beautiful. Not, hey, I'd love to date her, or geez, I wish I could ask her out. I wish I had a shot with a woman like that. No, I'd love to rape her. I'd love to take her against her will. Just let that sink in. And that is a horrible way. And that speaks more about how he views women at that time. I don't know if his apologies are true. He certainly did reach out to Sasha and talk to her. Sasha tweeted about it, said they had a good conversation, and said these kinds of things need to be talked about, need to be highlighted, we need to have conversations so you can show that this stuff is still happening and this stuff is prevalent. And hopefully you change the minds of someone who might say this in the future or who might think this way about women. That was her point there. And I think AEW said they were donating the rest of his salary, or Sammy Guevara said they're donating the rest of his salary to a women's center or some sort of nonprofit charity for women. So overall, this ended up having a positive result, but this is not how you want to get to a positive result for sure.
Yeah, he was suspended by AEW, and his Tony Khan said his future status with the company will be evaluated upon completion of sensitivity training, and his salary until then will be donated to the Women's Center of Jacksonville. So you're right about that. Sasha did respond. I would like to read her statement if I could. She said on Twitter, earlier I spoke with Sammy. He apologized. We had an open discussion. Words like the comments he made, jokingly or not, have absolutely no place in our society. I don't condone or tolerate this kind of behavior. What one thinks is just a side comment can have a massive impact on someone else's life and can send the wrong message. We have to hold ourselves accountable for our actions and the words we say, and I hope the situation shows him that. I hope from this point on, in order in growth or change within our community to take place, we all can continue to have these conversations. No person, man, woman, child should ever be subjected to a feeling of fear or unsafe environment. We all have to do better, not just for ourselves, but for generations to come.
Yeah.
So that was Sasha Banks' response to Sammy Guevara there. And they're friends from what I've seen, like on Twitter. They have a back and forth. So I'm sure this, not only are the words reprehensible, but I'm sure it hurt her even more coming from someone that's probably a friend to her.
Yeah, or she knew about it the whole time that he had made this comment, and she was able to forgive him privately, or maybe he apologized for it privately. And then when it blew up, you have to do what the responsible thing is and understand your platform and your brand, and put out a statement like that I think is very powerful that people need to listen to. But if she didn't know ahead of time, it must be a horrible thing to discover about your friend that he had said something like that about you. Because women unfortunately are subjected to a lot of harassment from men, verbally, physically, certainly comments wise and whatever in regular work environments. Imagine something like this where you have a friend and someone like Sasha, I'm sure, gets a boatload of terrible comments in her direction. Imagine finding out one of your friends said something this derogatory about you a few years ago. And, it must have been such a slap in the face when she did find out, if she hadn't known about it before. It's a terrible thing. So men, treat your female friends with respect, for God's sakes, and don't shoot your mouth off about them in such a disrespectful manner. If I could say anything.
This is not the conversation I wanted to have about Sasha Banks today. I did not want to.
We'll get to a better one for sure.
This is not a this is just a coincidence. Like, this is not. I did not put this together because of that. But yes, treat your women with respect. Treat people with respect, and don't be an asshole. And don't say things like that. For the love of God, why would you ever say that or think that? But oh man.
Let's do some sensitivity. Let's hit some super chats and Streamlabs, brother, have come through. We've got 85 people watching us live. Thank you so much.
Hello.
Yeah, please. 90 now. Please hit that like button for us. Only 38 likes. Get us up to 90 likes as quickly as possible. And if more than 100 come in here, please hit that thumbs up button. Give us some love for sure. And for those of you who are watching later on after we've recorded this, please leave your comments. The more comments you leave on the video, the more likes you leave on the video, kind of raises the status of us in the YouTube algorithm. So please do that as well. Dodger Ryan here sending in some more super chats. Thank you, Dodger. He says Royal Rumble 2021 will be a 5-hour show. Only allow 4 wrestlers max in the ring due to social distancing. Is that true, Aaron?
I think Dr. Ryan's being funny there, but the way that we're going, you might be right.
Right.
You might be right. It might just be, instead of 30 men and women over the top, it might just be 4. I don't know. The way we're going, you might not even be able to throw somebody over the top rope, so they just have to fall. I guess you have to, I don't know, shoot them with a Nerf gun. I don't know what you got to do, but. God!
I think you make Goldberg number 1. That's what you do, and he just knocks out everybody up.
Stop that right now! Stop that right now!
We disagreed on that. I loved it. Aaron hated it. I loved it, but Aaron hated it. Javier Reyes 405 says, I would like for their top stars like Drew McIntyre, Braun Strowman, and Randy Orton, and anyone who has a strap to sit out until this pandemic is over to force the WWE's hand into shutting down. Look, that is a beautiful sentiment in a utopian world. But the truth is, if they refused to defend their belts and sit out, I bet Vince would put them on the sideline. None of them are Stone Cold or The Rock or Hogan or Rollins even. And most of these guys are lifer guys like Randy. There's no way Randy would sit out for the pandemic. And Drew and Braun have been fighting for years to get to the position where they're holding the belts. So I really doubt they'd sit. What do you think, Aaron?
Sadly, yeah, I'm going to have to agree. I mean, maybe Randy Orton would be different. I think Randy Orton would be somebody that Vince would listen to in this situation because he's a veteran guy, and he's having. Unfortunately, you talked about 3 dudes that are having one hell of a year. Unfortunately for your situation here, because Drew McIntyre as WWE champion, I think, has been great since he's won that title. Braun, not as great, but is getting into a very interesting feud with Bray Wyatt. And then Randy Orton, the Edge stuff, the Christian stuff, going back to like the Legend Killer. Oh man, like you're going to kill their momentum. And I know that, listen to me, like in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter because this is a pandemic and it's killing people. But for the sake of this argument, I would say that of the 3, Randy Orton would hold the most weight to get into Vince's ear or somebody's ear to make it stop.
Probably. Yeah, it's a great point, Aaron. Absolutely. He's been there for decades in the the company, and of course is a legacy guy with his dad being Cowboy Bob Orton there. DGMC, is Sammy back by All Out? He and Jericho versus OC Tyson?
I don't know. I don't know what the timetable is for Guevara's return, because you got to think if he has to go to some kind of sensitivity training, a lot of those places are closed down. So I don't know if that's going to be, unless it's online, I guess. I don't know. I don't think we're going to see Sammy Guevara for at least a couple of months. And we don't need to. So I don't think it's going to hurt anybody. I don't think you're going to see Mike Tyson around. I mean, he is an older guy. He is also susceptible to COVID-19. Yeah. So I let's leave Mike Tyson out of it for a while.
Please, for the love of God, I don't want Mike going that way, for God's sakes. A couple of comments that weren't super chats I want to highlight here. It's also Snoop Dogg's niece. You better watch out. That's right. So for those of you who don't know, Sasha Banks is Snoop Dogg's niece. If you look, never say that about anybody, but if you were, this is not the person to be saying it about. God knows what the ramifications of that could be. Ratnick says, go to work in a warehouse, you'll hear far worse. Yeah, exactly. And that's the problem.
It's true.
Because enough men don't say to those men, shut the fuck up. I don't like the way you're talking about women. You know why? Because then you're seen as some kind of weak person or some kind of wuss, or they get physical with you. And meanwhile, these are the ones that if you say anything about their sister, they lose their fucking minds. It's that kind of stupid logic amongst men that drives me insane half the time. You know, have consistency in your logic. It really helps, you know.
Listen, man, I've been in sports locker rooms my entire life. I know what's being said. I've said it. I will admit it. I've said it. I've been a dumbass and said dumbass things. Right. That's what boys say. That's not what a man says. You know, stuff like that. Like hindsight being 2020, I would probably punch my 17-year-old self straight in the balls for half of what I said. So I'm just being real, man. Like I'm not going to sit here and act like I've never said anything that's like questionable or made an action that's questionable. It's just fuck. Like treat people better. Like that's all. That's the one thing that I have learned is that if you treat people like, it's an old adage, you know, treat people with respect, you'll get respect in return. It really is true.
It is. When Aaron was coming after the Outlaw in our early stages, he was getting disrespected, and then we had a meeting of the mind.
God. It was a long time ago.
The scars are still in my body. Drugs Watcher says, "Oh God, Alexa Bliss is going through this stuff too." And amen, Outlaw. Well, is she part of this as well? Has she been enduring some? I didn't know if someone had said something about her too, but I'm sure.
Oh, I think she was getting. Oh, I'm sorry. I think she was getting bullied because she she's kept her personal life pretty private. But she this week she put up a bunch of pictures of her and Ryan Cabrera, who I guess are dating. I didn't know. I don't care. But I'm just saying, like, she's really kept that private since her breakup with Buddy Murphy. And I know a lot of people were giving her crap about, oh my God, what about Buddy? And she's like, yo, we broke up in 2018. Like, I don't know what to tell you, but maybe that's what they're talking about. I tend to stay out of wrestlers' personal lives. That's not something I care about.
I will say this, though. I mean, Sasha and Alexa have rarely seen eye to eye in real life from what we hear in the reports and the backstage stuff. But Alexa retweeted Sasha's post and gave her kudos for the words, because I'm sure Alexa, a beautiful young lady herself, has probably endured some kind of some comments like that herself from men overall in that company and outside of the company, I'm sure. So it's a real thing, Let's hit some let's hit some Streamlabs here, Aaron. We had some nice ones come through. Christine donated. She said, "Morning from Sydney. Wrestling's been difficult, especially as a long life female fan, but appreciate the show, lads, especially as you'll be focusing on the match that still makes me cry. Happy tears. Thanks, lads." Well, thank you, Christine, for watching. Really appreciate it. Sure. Hope the words we're saying resonate with you as well, and we're getting it right. And please let us know if we're not. You don't even have to donate on the Streamlabs or Super Chat. Feel free to comment. I'll find it and put it up here if you think we're missing anything or not treating it with the respect that it deserves. Absolutely. Hill Nellums donate. Oh my God, Hill, thank you so much. What a very kind donation. He said, "Missed the show last week, so maybe already discussed, but NJPW seems like they've handled everything the right way and their restart. I cried watching wrestling 5 times. Sasha versus Bayley at TakeOver was number 4. Wow. Yeah, strong statement.
I'm so excited
we'll be getting to that
about that match. I'm so excited to talk about that match because, like, for those 2 Streamlabs, like, both of the folks talking about crying, I cried too. I cried too rewatching it. I cry every time I watch this damn match. Like, I don't know what it does to me emotionally, but it makes me cry. So I'm excited to talk about it.
The idea of someone the idea of someone who always comes so close and been underappreciated or undervalued, finally getting the job done. I think a lot of us can relate to that. Javier Reyes sent in a super chat here. It seems like Tessa Blanchard has burned bridges with most, if not all, companies she's worked for so far. Where does she go from here? Good segue, Aaron. Take us into this story about Tessa Blanchard.
Can't really write a better segue than that. Thank you, Javier. So this was big news last night. This happened. I usually go to bed 10 o'clock. I'm out. But last night I had a hard time sleeping, and I rolled over and I saw this tweet from Sean Sapp from Fightful.com, and he was reporting off of Mike Johnson from PW Insider's report that Tessa Blanchard, the Impact World Heavyweight Champion, not Women's Champion, World Heavyweight Champion, has been fired by Impact Wrestling and stripped of the World Heavyweight Championship after holding it for 159 days. She is the company's only female World Heavyweight Champion that there's ever been. And, she's the daughter of Tully Blanchard, the stepdaughter of Magnum TA. She has quite the lineage in this business. But, over the past couple of weeks, there have been some issues with Tessa. And I know that she's had her issues in the past, especially this year with a bunch of, seems like some racist stuff had come to the surface.
Yes.
Where she denies. Really bad for Tessa. She denies that, but a lot of corroboration is saying that, that did happen. And not only that, from what I read, I don't know if it's gone because of that, but Impact asked her to do some pre-tapes for an upcoming match that she was going to be in. Not come to the studio, nothing like that. Just record them from home and send them in. And she didn't do that. And she no-showed some event they were planning, and they just, hey, we're just going to wash our hands of it. She's not going to listen to us. She doesn't want to be with us. We're asking her to do something pretty simple, and that's it. So Tessa Blanchard, gone. Now, I know you have very strong feelings about this, as do I, because I think that she is hella talented. And I know you do too. So take it away, sir. Tell me what you think.
It's a really difficult situation here because when we just talked about young men, saying inappropriate things or saying offensive things towards women. I mean, here's a young woman saying inappropriate things about a race, possibly, and those using derogatory terms and offensive terms in that way. And that tells you, listen, this is not a one-sided situation. Both men and women in our society can say some of the worst things, and usually it's when they're young. Or you hope it's when they're young so that when they're older, they understand and mature and change their minds and realize the mistakes that they've made in the past. As Aaron just said, he punched his old 17-year-old self in the balls. But Tessa Blanchard certainly had this situation with the N-word. She was accused of spitting in a woman's face in Japan. Then Chelsea Green spoke out that she experienced bullying from Tessa Blanchard as well. And now Isla Dawn is replied to stuff about Tessa Blanchard, said, as someone who experienced your bullying firsthand, and this was in response to Tessa talking about support women, support all women, be positive about women. She said, Isla Dawn said, as someone who experienced your bullying firsthand, received regular verbal abuse, was spat on, had rumors spread about me, dealt with multiple attempts by you to blacklist me from other companies, plus more. I just pray you now follow your own advice. Very strong reaction to Tesla, who tweeted out, hey, women, try supporting one another. Cool things happen. So certainly she has kind of made her bed and has to lay in it because of these accusations that have come forward of backstage bullying from a number of people. Priscilla Kelly also accused her of backstage bullying and obviously the N-word situation. She also wanted to get a day rate apparently for these promos that she didn't send in. So in addition to her salary, or what she was making on the matches or whatever, she also wanted to get paid for these promos now and refused to drop the title. They were going to come in and have her drop the title. Apparently that's the rumor. And then she refused to do it. So to me, at the end of the day, bro, this is a very talented woman who is confident about her abilities, maybe to her detriment. And certainly coming from someone like Tully, she certainly probably has a very inner, strong, tough streak within herself to fight anybody or say the most inappropriate things or unleash her anger in some way. But I think this may be a wake-up call for Tessa, bro. If AEW doesn't sign her and WWE doesn't sign her and she ends up on some middling small card somewhere on some small promotion, that is a wake-up call. And sometimes people need to tumble, who are a little too full of themselves, may need to tumble down the chain a little bit to get a little humility and understand the mistakes. Certainly knows Randy Orton is a damn test case right there. Although Randy didn't stumble down to fight for some indie promotion, he certainly, a lot of people blacklisted him for some of the comments he made about women, some of the derogatory things he'd said about some of his arrogance. He certainly suffered at the hands and then learned as he got older how to be a better man. And so we've seen this, probably friends you have, Aaron, friends I have, friends, me, you, certainly a lot of people probably watching, listening to us have gone through their own stages of maturation and could look at their 20-year-old selves and go, what the fuck are you doing? And so with Tessa, this may be that same kind of situation.
If we rewind the clock, maybe 9 months ago to Tessa Blanchard and talk about Tessa Blanchard, you would be talking about somebody that, had she left Impact Wrestling at the beginning of the year before any of this blew up, you're talking big money Tessa. That's what you're talking about, because she was in such high demand. In my opinion, her stock was never higher, and she decided to go instead of WWE, which there are rumors, she was in the Mae Young Classic, the first one. She got jobbed out to Kairi Sane immediately. So that kind of told you that maybe something wasn't right. But she was in the NXT camp for a long time, that they could have had a chance to sign her and do something with her. They decided not to. That's not the first time that's happened with somebody. She went on to go do something else. Then she's in All Out. She goes and does that. So you're thinking, okay, well, maybe she'll sign with AEW when this whole Impact thing is over. And then that kind of doesn't happen. So you're like, well, that's very weird. And I know that tweet that you're talking about because it exploded into so many different stories that Tessa Blanchard just got barbecued on Twitter. Then a video came out where she accepted money from a fan to take a poop on film. Like, whatever. It's whatever. But I make your money. But I'm just saying, like, 9 months ago, Tessa Blanchard was higher than anybody could have been. And I'm telling you, she went from knocking on the penthouse door to being thrown under the outhouse here. And I think that not only is WWE going to pass on her, I think AEW will also pass on her. I think you will see her again in AAA in Mexico. The reason I say that is because she's already competed in AAA, and her soon-to-be husband Daga also wrestles for AAA. So I could see them working out a relationship. It's not in Mexico. All bets are kind of off on that kind of stuff. Like, people tend to forget about things in Mexico. It's a little different than the United States wrestling scene. So I could see Tessa showing up in AAA. I don't think AEW, WWE it touches her with a 10-foot pole, to be honest with you.
Well, I'm looking at here at EWN Wrestling News, and they're saying that Daga is currently signed to a multi-million-dollar deal with Impact Wrestling.
He is, but he also does AAA shows as well.
Okay. And the two are currently living together in Mexico. Interesting situation. All right. They're also reporting that they were trying to come to terms, Impact and Tessa Blanchard, before Slammiversary, because that's when her contract was going to be up, and that they said the negotiations went cold. And so they asked her to come in and drop the title, and she refused to do so. This is the quote from from E-Wrestling News. Impact Wrestling told us Blanchard was acting like a complete B-word during negotiations and wanted to be paid on a day-by-day basis. So this, to me, feels like she wanted out of the Impact situation. And like you said, Aaron, earlier in the year, she was a rocket ship, man. And so maybe that belief about herself that she deserves to be in a better, higher, more profile federation or company has kind of consumed her. And so she's done little things to get herself fired. Lord knows she's not the first wrestler to try to purposely get herself fired or get themselves fired from a company and do things so it becomes an untenable situation. So we see NFL players, NBA players, any sport, we see those players do that all the time. OBJ, we've seen that happen a number of times with players. So no different here. And she's only 24 years old. That's the madness of this all, Aaron. She is this good, this popular, this much in everybody's on everybody's lips. And she's 24 years old, man. Imagine if she kind of solves these things or works these things out, she could be a superstar by 30 or out of the business. If she suffers a massive knee injury, Aaron, nobody's going to talk about her again for a while. That could be a dangerous thing for Tessa,
I thought for a long time that a big money WrestleMania match would be Charlotte Flair in the lineage of the Four Horsemen, Ric Flair versus Tessa Blanchard. I thought that would be big money. Yeah. And now I'm afraid it'll never happen. So we'll just have to see what happens. Maybe she'll mature. I don't know. So many depressing stories. I mean, we can even go on. Let's go ahead and move past this one. Let's talk about Joey Ryan, Dave Christ.
We got a couple super chats that came in for this real quick.
Yeah.
Sorry. No worries. Tommy Tom says Tessa was with Ricochet for a bit and they lived with Apollo Crews, so her whole situation is weird. She's awesome, but definitely has some backstage issues. Well, who you live with is who you live with. You got to make your life and make it work. So I don't know if she had any backstage issues with Ricochet or Apollo Crews, but maybe Tom and Tom is saying both those guys know how to do it right. How could she not learn from those guys how to do it right in the business? Maybe that's
I think he might be saying because they're people of color and she is accused of being a racist. So maybe that would be something to do with it too. So
yeah, but that wouldn't be the first time. I've seen that happen many times. Tommy Tom, Tessa Ricochet versus Ospreay Presley is a dope match. Oh, I should watch that. Never seen that one. It's Jeremy's interesting point. He says Randy got away with it because of the sexism in wrestling. Tessa's getting more hate because of the racism and the time we live in. Maybe.
You're 100% right.
It's never going to be a racist.
Done that. If Randy Orton would have done the stuff that he's accused of doing back in the day, if he would have done any of that now, Randy Orton would be DOA, gone. Yeah. We would have never heard of Randy Orton again. So, yes, you are right in that respect.
What about Aaron, you speak on this. Jay Reese says, I wonder if when she was with NXT, they tried to humble her before it got out of hand and it just didn't work.
It's very possible. I mean, you got to look at her as, she's the daughter of Tully Blanchard. So, naturally, you would want to put her with the daughter of Ric Flair. Like, the daughter of Ric Flair's here, the daughter of Tully Blanchard. We could do this, we could do that. And you're probably right. She probably did get humbled, except, some people can make it through. I'm sure they tried to humble Charlotte too. Yep. And she probably got through it. And maybe Tessa didn't take kindly to that. It's hard to say.
I mean, that desire to be at the top is strong. The desire to be respected is strong as well. So you just never know. It's a good point, Aaron. All right, let's move on to our next story. As you were saying, my brother, before I cut you off.
This is kind of an addendum to the Tessa Blanchard story in a different way, but it's still talking about Impact here. So Joey Ryan, Dave Christ, and Michael Elgin, or Joey Ryan, Dave Christ were initially released. Michael Elgin was first suspended, but there is an update on that. He has been fired from Impact Wrestling during this speaking out movement. This comes from Pro Wrestling Sheet. From Ryan Satin. that, Impact released a statement saying that they have terminated the contracts of Dave Christ and Joey Ryan effective immediately. In addition, it has suspended Michael Elgin pending further review. As I said, that has now turned into a firing. So Joey Ryan was accused of multiple acts of sexual abuse and harassment during the Speaking Out movement. Christ has been accused of multiple counts of sexual assault and misconduct, including a claim from an ex-girlfriend who claimed that he had been abusive sexually and assaulted her more than once. So here we go again. And I will add this from NXT UK. Travis Banks was also fired, and so was Ligero. They were both fired today. So it just seems like the Speaking Out movement is starting to clear some of the garbage out of pro wrestling, but you've got to look at a guy like Joey Ryan with his risque, that's putting it mildly, his risque gimmick of the penis, rest in penis, and all that kind of stuff. And I'll be 100% honest with you again, I really enjoyed Joey Ryan's gimmick. I really thought that shit was hilarious. And then to hear all these stories about these women that he's abused and people with these different stories, I'm like, man, this guy was a true monster. And it's just really horrifying to hear all of this stuff come out. And then Impact, kudos to Impact for taking swift action and just not waiting. Just, you're fired. Okay, you're suspended. Now you're fired. So, I mean, what you read something like that, we both know, I think we're both mild fans of Joey Ryan. So, this has to come as a surprise, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I met a Joey Ryan on Collider Live. He was great to interview with Roxy. He seemed like Roxy Strider. We were there interviewing him on Collider Live. Very nice gentleman. We did the whole, hand on his penis thing, which I thought was a really funny picture. And I just really, I defended him because I thought it was insane that people were coming after him for somehow pro wrestling has some kind of level of aristocracy about it. I thought it was ridiculous. This is pro wrestling, for God's sakes. It's carnival shows. It's Barker stuff. It's fun. And so a guy who uses his penis to defeat people in wrestling matches, that's not out of the realm of professional wrestling, for God's sakes. So I thought it was a fun way to make fun of it. Just like I've seen like those COVID situations where they're wrestling from 6 feet away. I think that's brilliant. I think that's very funny. It's all fake, ladies and gentlemen. So there's nothing wrong with having fun with it a little bit. But this is a terrible thing to hear, and it's a disappointing thing to hear because, like you said, I met him, very humble guy, nice guy, works hard, goes from independent company to independent company to stay alive because the big companies don't take him because of his act. He chose to do this act. This is how he got over. This is how he sold his merch. This is how he made his living. And blah, blah. So he's got to go on the road all the time to these independent companies, working as a freelance wrestler, entertaining these crowds, anywhere from like 50 people to like 300 people or thousands of people. Joey's got to bring it every single time. And so you hear this stuff and you hear these conversations, and it's just an absolute shame if this stuff is true. And we're at this position now where I don't doubt when this stuff comes out, there's just so much of it. You're just like, yep, seems to make sense. Things going on behind the scenes, people behaving in a certain way that they've been behaving in the past, not understanding that those days are over. And so people are more willing to speak out and call you out on it and put you on the skewer if they have to. And we're seeing it now with a number of these wrestlers. So it's more disappointing than it is surprising. And that's a shame overall for me personally, because I really liked meeting the guy. But we're past that point where we go, well, he seems like such a nice guy. Not my friend. I think we're past all that now. Any of our friends could be one of these people that does this stuff behind closed doors or in the back when they think they're safe.
Yeah, and I know people will say like, the dude had a penis grabbing gimmick, like you had to know he was up to something kind of nefarious. But it's like, you go into these matches and you have to have consent from the person. You're not just going to sit there and make them grab your penis in the match, and people aren't going to think that's weird. It's just, I hate to hear it from these guys. Like Dave Christ is a guy on Impact that was actually doing some good work, and then it's like, God damn it, man! Like just keep your shit together. Like, why are you terrible people abusing people? Stop doing it. Like, I don't give a crap if you're John Cena. Like, just stop doing this. Like, John Cena's never been accused of that. I just want to throw that out there. But it's like, the more that you get into this, it's just like, dude, like this thing that I love, this thing that I cherish is so dark. And I know we talk about dark side of the ring and stuff like that, but it's just so dark. And you want to get your head out of the sand and believe that this stuff doesn't happen. And I'm starting to do that, folks. I'm starting to get my head out of the sand and realize these things. But it doesn't mean that it hurts any less. And it hurts 10 times more for the victims of these crimes. But damn, man, like it's hard to read wrestling news in the past couple of weeks without just getting really sad.
Yeah. I mean, there were accusations. There have been some accusations for Velveteen Dream as well, man. And that's been going on for a little bit now, the last couple of years, but there were some recent ones last week of allegations of him grooming underage women and conducting himself inappropriately. So Velveteen Dream may be one of the next people they kind of drag out into this thing with some accusations. So we shall see, dude. And look, I know it's dark. I know this can be upsetting, but I also think, Aaron, it's darkest before the dawn, which is like, we got to get all this stuff out, cleanse it, so that we can be clean going forward. So it may be difficult for us to talk about. It may be rough to confront these things and overcome these things and deal with these things. But in the end, it's for the betterment of the overall business, for these women not to feel like objects to be ogled at or to be threatened with rape and sexually assaulted or groomed, and for women to treat women better as well, for real, and not bully them for their desperate desire to be on top, and for men to stop doing that same shit too, and people in power abusing their privileges too. I guarantee you there's probably some wrestling executives, and we saw it already, right? Last week or 2 weeks ago, some wrestling executives were fired or let go who have had these accusations put upon them, who thought they could trade sexual favors for advancement. You know, it's a terrible situation overall. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well, Dave Lagana, you talked about that. Dave Lagana stepped down, and they shut down Chikara Pro Wrestling because of all the allegations that were going around. So a whole company went under because of the rumors and what was swirling around there. So it's not over, folks. We're going to be dealing with this for a long time, and I hope the stuff that Velveteen Dream is accused of doing is not true 1,000%, not only for the victims, but I mean, holy crap, dude, that is some serious stuff. I hope that is not true.
Yeah, I agree with him, my man. It's very, very true. We've got a super chat that came in here. Brock Holland said, so we haven't really heard of anyone in the main WWE roster aside from NXT UK and Jack Gallagher getting accused of anything. Are they better at hiding these people, or are they better at vetting them? It's a good question.
I think they're better at hiding it. I think that's or it could be a case of both. Maybe they're good at hiding it, and maybe they're good at vetting people as well. So the NXT UK scene is so bizarre to me that all this happened from the UK, and it seems like WWE had no idea this was going on. They had used Jack Gallagher for the Cruiserweight tournament. He'd been on 205 Live a lot, so it's not like Jack Gallagher just kind of popped up out of nowhere and they hadn't been using him like most of the NXT UK guys. So a very odd situation that transpired there.
Yeah. Very good points. WWE just released El Ligero and Travis Banks as well, man.
Right. Yeah. I mentioned that a bit earlier, but yes, you're right.
So you're hearing that as well.
Both guys have been accused of some very bad stuff. So probably good to let them go.
Yeah, probably good to look into that. Yeah, agreed. All right. Let's move on to something a little more brighter, my man. What do we got next?
All right. So, is The Undertaker done? Is he finally done? So, during Chapter 5 of Undertaker: The Last Ride, the series that's been going on in the WWE Network, Undertaker hints that the Boneyard match with AJ Styles from this past WrestleMania will be his last. So, my question to you... Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just like, wow. Yeah.
My question to you is, number one, will it be his final match? And number two, what is a favorite Undertaker moment that you have?
Oh, that's a great question, my man. Look, it's really, really tough not to choose the Hell in a Cell, but that's about Foley more than it is about Taker. So I can't choose that. Moment, man, that is tough. That is incredibly tough. That guy's had so many great moments. I think I can only say match, and that's the match he had with either HBK or Triple H. One of those two WrestleMania matches are still, bar none, my favorite maybe the one against Triple H where Shawn Michaels was the referee. That is an incredible, incredible match with some fantastic turns and some surprises and some moments where you're just like, no, that's it. He's done. It's over. He's done. And he somehow found a way to beat him. The Shawn Michaels aspect of it all was incredible as well. So to me, maybe that's my favorite match overall, with numerous moments within it that are some of my favorite Taker moments ever. And if we've seen the last of Taker, no one else gave more to the business than Taker did for more years, and consistently beloved by the fans. Even when he changed to the American Badass, which he kind of brought out for that WrestleMania match recently, people still went with him. People still loved him. And you never heard a bad word about Taker, man. You never heard a bad word about Mark Meadows. You never heard a bad word about him with anything he did backstage. He's got a ride or die lady with him in Michelle McCool. And I think nobody deserves to sit back and enjoy the retired life and be beloved by the fans than The Undertaker. And I think he should follow the Steve Austin route and start a podcast immediately. When he was a guest on ESPN and on Austin's show, he was absolutely magnetic and very charming, very wide open and vulnerable and interesting to listen to. And if I was a podcast producer, I would immediately, with a platform, I'd immediately contact him and try to get him on a podcast and do his own thing.
See, what I like the most about The Undertaker is the mystique of The Undertaker. So I would be against him doing all of that stuff. But,
well, you know he's not really from the dead, right? You know he's not really
I know that
dead.
I know that he's not from the dead, but Mark Calloway, the guy, did a lot to protect that character. So I don't want to see him do that, though. Hey, Conrad Thompson could always use another podcast, for God's sakes. So the thing is, though, I think it is a fitting end if they do go with that. I hope they do. They're going to play that match again tonight on SmackDown. So that'll be half the show. It'll be the Boneyard match. So that'll be really exciting to see that again. But yeah, I think that's a fitting end. You got all your Taker stuff in. You got the dead man shtick. You got the little American Badass in there, traditional Undertaker stuff. But you know, for me, my dad was an Undertaker fan. Like when we went to events as a kid, my dad really liked the Undertaker, and I have no idea why. I think just because he was like a big, intimidating guy. I think he just really liked him. But I always remember his debuting with Brother Love when Roddy Piper on the commentary said, "Look at the size of that ham hock." I'll always remember that. And of course, his first. Imagine being a guy that comes in and your debut, your first pay-per-view match is against Hulk Hogan, the world heavyweight champion. That's your first match. And you're off to the races after that. A character that withstood the test of time. Of course, the Hell in a Cell, yes. Those magical matches with Shawn Michaels and Triple H, yes, of course. His match with CM Punk, also great match.
Yes.
Something I'll always remember is the Buried Alive match that he had with Mankind.
Oh, yeah.
When they buried him alive and his hand comes up from under the grave. I was like, that's great. And then the match that he had with Yokozuna, the casket match, when they put him in a casket and they showed him on the Tron and he was dead. But no, wait, he was alive. Like, just stuff like that is always what I'm going to remember The Undertaker. Yes, the American Badass. Yes, he sacrificed Stone Cold Steve Austin. Yes, he hung the Big Boss Man from a Hell in a Cell cage. But I still like the classic Dead Man, the purple gloves, the purple stirrups, the gray gloves, and the gray stirrups. That's my Undertaker. That's what I love the most.
I respect that. Absolutely.
And by the way, and also real quick, this son of a bitch should have stayed retired at WrestleMania when I went in Orlando when he lost to Roman Reigns and he left all the stuff in the ring. And then me and my friends, because we have so much respect for The Undertaker, waited until the lights came back on and his music was done before we got up and left. Everybody else was leaving, but we had so much respect for The Undertaker that we stood there because we thought he watched his last match. You son of a bitch, you should have stayed retired.
Well, in just one sentence, he just destroyed everything he said. There you go. Mark Calloway, you son of a bitch. Brock Holland sent in another super chat. He said, my Undertaker moment is more of a story, which is the first feud with Kane. That being said, with the advent of the cinematic matches, I can't be alone in finally wanting that Taker versus Sting match. Nothing would scare me more. Nothing would scare me more that both men would break a hip or break a leg or break something. I mean, that buckle bomb Sting took, I never want to see him in the ring again. That's a man I love. And a man who gave everything to this business, endured a lot of shit in this business, and was able to achieve a rebirth with a new character in a way that very few people get to do. And he did it with the Crow Sting and the beach blonde bomb sting, the surfer sting. Incredible stuff he did. So I don't want to see him get hurt in an accident on a cinematic match. Nor do I want Taker, who's pushing 60. Aaron, was your dad wrestling at 60 years old, for the love of God? I mean, I bet Dad could barely walk up the stairs. I don't want him, throwing punches and being thrown into dark holes or, buried alive. That's a dangerous thing for a man up there.
No, my dad was a boxer in his younger days, and he wasn't boxing nobody at 60 years old. The only thing he was boxing was a grand slam from Denny's. That's about it. At 60 years old, that's all he was doing.
Yeah, Taker's how old? Wait, let me see. He is 55, son. I don't want a man who is qualified for senior citizen status to be out there throwing hands. It's just my personal opinion. So, Haskell 420. My dad died at 54, so no on this end. LOL. Yeah, I agree. Let us know what we're going to talk. We're about to talk about the Sasha Bayley match, but let us know what your favorite Undertaker moments were. If you want to send it in through Super Chat or Streamlab, that'd be great as well. Remember, those are still open here. We're almost done with the show. We're going to spend the last 20 minutes of the show probably talking about this match. So please send in your thoughts on Streamlabs and Super Chats. We'll read them out as we go through this match. Now, Aaron, is it time to revisit Sasha Banks versus Bayley from NXT Takeover Brooklyn?
Yeah, let's have a nice good cry to end the show.
Yes.
What a match. Like Rocha and I were just talking, like we both watched this like Wednesday, and then we just watched it again before the show. Yep. Because we just love it that much. But such a good match. I'm bringing it back. I'm going to talk about the build to the match, and then we'll talk about the match itself. So in 2013, Bayley and Sasha Banks started their rivalry where Sasha aligned herself with the villainous Summer Rae. Then Bayley teamed up with Charlotte Flair to take on Rae and Banks until Charlotte turned on her, making that 3-on-1. Oh, geez. Bayley would get even with Sasha Banks in 2014 by beating her and become the number one contender for the NXT Women's Championship. But Bayley would fall short in her bid for champion as she was going up against Charlotte Flair, and then she was attacked by Sasha Banks afterwards. But Bayley did find another ally in the last kicker before she was the man, Becky Lynch. But she was also betrayed, again, this time by Becky Lynch, and she joined Sasha Banks. So in storyline, Lynch and Banks injured Bayley's knee, keeping her out of action. Bayley would later save her rival Charlotte Flair from a 2-on-1 attack from Lynch and Banks, setting the stage for NXT TakeOver Fatal 4-Way, where Lynch versus Banks versus Charlotte would happen, and Sasha got the victory and the NXT Women's title by pinning Charlotte. Bayley did have a short feud with Emma and Charlotte before actually breaking her hand in real life, keeping her out of action again. Then Sasha defended her title against Charlotte and Becky Lynch and Alexa Bliss before finally taking on Bayley here in this match.
Yeah, I mean, this is such a surprising situation, right? They let Sasha do so much in NXT that they've rarely let her do in the main roster of the WWE, beating Charlotte, retaining championships, defending championships multiple times. I mean, coming into this match, she had the belt for 7 months. And so unbeaten run holding the NXT title. Bayley had always been the almost, and this was old school booking for Becky that was both, fortunate timing with the injury and fortunate and unfortunate, of course, for her getting her hand injured, but fortunate timing for how they were booking her, right? I mean, that's old school 1980s booking. Have them come close to the title, lose, close to the title, lose, close to the title, and then eventually getting it. It's old school 70s booking. Dusty, how many times did Dusty come close to that title and not get it before he finally got it? So it's that thing that like builds up with an underdog. When you have the right underdog, it can really work. And certainly Bayley, who is absolutely a lifer in this business and someone who revered this business, was influenced by Dusty Rhodes, influenced by Randy, I think by Randy the Macho Man Savage. She was, someone who loved professional wrestling at a young age. They told her story, being from Fresno or San Pedro, one of those players, San Jose.
She's from the Bay Area. Yeah,
from the Bay Area. Let's leave it at that. She was influenced by a lot of those professional wrestlers. So they show video of her at a young age, teenage Bayley, wanting to become a professional wrestler, going to the matches, going to the live events, doing what she could to get there, and then working hard through the training, through everything to get into her position. So she was a tailor-made babyface who was constantly being betrayed. Now, once again, old school booking, that idea that every friend you get ends up betraying you for a selfish desire to get closer to the title. And this was the match. This was the match that finally a lot of people felt Bayley was either going to win this match or forever be relegated to an also ran. So there was a lot of pressure in this match. There were rumors that Sasha was being called up. I don't know if it was announced ahead of time, but there were rumors that Sasha was being called up to the main roster. So people wondered who was going to win this match.
Yeah, Sasha and Charlotte and Becky Lynch had all been called up at this time. So even when that is happening and Sasha's the NXT champion, there's still kind of a doubt that they're going to run with Bayley as their NXT women's champion. And the way that they built it, that preamble, that promo that you were talking about is so well done. That's probably one of the best they've ever done in NXT, just setting the stage of how Charlotte, Sasha, and Becky Lynch were so much better than Bayley, and Bayley was the one that had to stay down in NXT. Yeah. Bayley wasn't good enough to join the other ones, and you see it in the match where Sasha Banks tells Bayley, she's not good enough.
Right.
You're not good enough to be on Raw and SmackDown like me. And it's just, it fuels that fire to eventually where Bayley cracks.
Yeah.
Bayley's had enough, and she just starts beating up on Sasha Banks, and just the way the emotion, sorry guys, I'm buttoning the pants here. Just the way that she, the way that she's doing that kind of stuff, and the way that she's using that anger, that ferocity, where the lovable, wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube man lady has blown up. She's had enough of Sasha Banks. She's had enough of the boss, and she goes right after her. Man, this match starts off in a slow, methodical storytelling fashion.
Yeah.
Okay. Bayley has a broken hand that's legit. She was coming off of that injury. It wasn't broken at this time, but they made it look like it was. And, you know, Bayley comes out in the tribute Macho Man / Dusty Rhodes gear.
Yeah.
Which is great. And they do this slow storytelling where Bayley knows Sasha so well that when Sasha starts going for her signature moves, Bayley's got him scouted. That double knee in the corner, she had already scouted it. So Sasha has to take it to the top rope and do a more devastating version of it, which is great. Yeah. And they were both game for everything that they were doing. Like Bayley even starts off putting Sasha in the corner, does this jumping elbow drop off of the rope, and it looked great the way that she did it. So smart. And when Sasha's yelling at Bayley that she's not good enough and Bayley kicks her right in the face, it's just so good. But man, Rocha, where this match really goes to a next level is the point where Bayley's hand is trapped in between those steps.
Yeah.
And Sasha Banks kicks the steps into her hand.
Yeah.
And you're kind of like, okay, is Bayley gonna be out here? Like, oh my God, we're taking so long on the outside. Like, let's hurry this up. Yeah. And Sasha Banks does a flip over top of the referee onto Bayley, and that's where this match went to the next level, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's what was so incredible watching it. You're right. The way they built it up, you know, Bayley coming in with the fans loving her and her strapping that thing on the young kid's wrist and everything. She's such the total baby face. And then Sasha coming in perfectly in that limousine or whatever there was, that Range Rover Escalade, and then 4 huge security guards that help her into the ring. The whole look of it, her laughing at the Dusty Randy Savage look of her, you know, when you know that Sasha is a massive Dusty Rhodes fan as well, and a fan of Eddie Guerrero. She's just looking at her, laughing at her attempts at homage. She's wearing great tights that showcase her ability. It's just a vibrant looking Sasha and the vibrant looking Bayley. So you can't take your eyes off of either of these ladies. And then then Bayley, like you said, just can't take it anymore. Her criticisms, and jumps right on top of Sasha, taking the match to her. And Sasha, and in great storytelling in a professional match like this, Aaron, you see Sasha slowly start to figure out that Bayley is for real here, and she's really got to bring her A game and take her stuff to the next level. And that's what leads to her jumping over that referee on top of Bayley outside the ring. And you think, oh, she could just win this thing with a counter. And you've seen before how some booked matches end eventually because the person picked up an injury early on in the match and they use it as the reason for why that person just couldn't get the job done one more time. So already in your mind, you're like, well, is this possible? She'll lose again, and this time it'll be the injury, some new excuse, and it won't happen. But then they get back and Bayley gives as good as she gets from Sasha. Incredible moves. I don't know how both of these women don't have broken necks after this match with some of the hits they took against those ropes and off those ropes and outside the ring as well. Incredible stuff, Aaron.
Yeah, Sasha Banks plays such a good villain here. Of course, Bayley's going to play like the baby face, the underdog character. She's playing the Rocky Balboa here. Yeah. But my God, is Sasha Banks, for as small as she is, she's a very small person, to be such a bad woman. Like, she's such a good villain. And the way that she does the Bayley woo and then slaps her right in the face, like it's so good. The way that she did it and the way that this match unfolds, like after that flip, you're like, okay, well, Sasha's got this in the bag. Then she hits her with a Bayley to belly, and you're thinking that's the end. That's got to be the finish. Yeah. Nope, that's not the finish. And then you think, okay, well, Sasha hit her with the Meteora, the double knees from the top rope. Well, that's got to be it. Nope, that's not the finish. Right. Well, Sasha gets her in the next best part for me is when Sasha Banks has Bayley in the bank statement. And instead of just, cranking on it, she starts stomping on that hand. Yep. And I was like, oh, that's such a dastardly move. Like, oh, it's so good. And then Bayley reverses it and gets her in it. You're like, oh, this is it. Nope, this isn't it. Another near fall. And then we do the ultimate, man. We do the ultimate where Bayley gets Sasha Banks on the top rope and does a reverse Hurricanrana. Like, who in the world saw that coming? That reverse Hurricanrana, which could have gone 20 different ways of wrong, somehow landed it just right. Somehow landed it just right. I don't know how it happened, but that is the next turning point in the match right there, my man.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't know how she landed that thing and got it right. And you see them taking, as I said here just a few seconds ago, some incredible bumps, some aerial, just some incredibly fantastic aerial moves being on display here, and both of these ladies just bringing it at top peak physical condition. Both of them, this wasn't that many years ago, but you can tell for both of these ladies being up in that main roster, you got to conserve your energy, conserve your moments of unleashing your hell when you're up in the main roster, because there's a lot of people out there and you're wrestling way more than you're wrestling down at NXT. And so it takes a lot more out of your body. And you can tell here, these are women in their prime, just about to ascend into the main roster. Sasha's already gone there, but Bayley on her way. And they are just throwing their caution to the wind. And their bodies are doing things that only young bodies can do, Aaron. And it's a joy for us to watch. And I don't care if you're the most hardest, I don't believe women should be wrestling person, though. When you watch this match, you can't help but sit back in awe at the physical talent, the physical ability, and the overall guts of both of these women to put everything on the line physically against each other and deliver a hell of a match. And maybe the most memorable match I've ever watched not ever, but certainly in the last 20 years.
No doubt about it. And then Bayley gets the win with the Bayley to belly. And then we get to the point where I cry because, the crowd is just so lit for this match. Like everything they do, the crowd is super, super into, which I didn't realize this, but this is the first NXT takeover that they did that wasn't at Full Sail. So it makes a lot of sense that they would be super hot for this match. And I don't know how the main event, Samoa Joe and Finn Balor, I don't know how they followed this. I have no idea how that happened, but just the way that they ended that and the way that, the four horsewomen get together and come out and do all that stuff. Like, it's unbelievable, dude.
Yeah. And take us to the end, man.
Yeah. So of course, in the aftermath, of course, we have, due to how great their match was at TakeOver, William Regal sets a rematch for TakeOver Respect. And it's an Iron Woman match, 30 minutes. Bayley retains the title, wins 3-2. Sasha joins the main roster in July of 2015 ahead of that first match. Bayley would hold the NXT Women's Championship for 8 months, eventually lose it to Asuka, who would then hold it for over a year. Bayley would officially make her main roster debut in August of 2016 and really hasn't looked back since. She's been the Raw Women's Champion, first ever half of the Women's Tag Team Champion with Sasha Banks, and is now, and the SmackDown Women's Champion currently. So both of these women have had great careers since then. I would say Bayley a little bit more than Sasha these days.
Yeah, it's interesting. Sasha, because of injury and also, frustration with how she's been booked. So there were issues there for a while with Sasha, and I don't think that was Sasha's fault at all. I think it was all WWE just not knowing what to do with such an incredible talent like Sasha, and maybe a slight bit of racism involved as well, in my opinion, because they certainly laid out that red carpet for Charlotte Flair wherever she went. But for Sasha, they seem to have to make her jump through hoops or play off dumb storylines. And finally now, I love the fact that Sasha and Bayley are back together again as heels, as the tag team women's champions. And unfortunately, it's not in front of crowds. It's not where people can really appreciate what they're doing live. But I'm just happy they're back in the state of where they hold the belts, which they never should have lost to the Iconics, because Vince is a moron sometimes in some of his booking. and it was a useless thing to have them lose, and it caused unnecessary problems between those two coming in and getting booked and doing the things that they did. Yes, it led to Bayley having a nice singles run, but in the end, you screwed over Sasha again to make that happen, and it was incredibly frustrating to watch for me. So I'm happy they're back. Don't forget, at the end of this match, first of all, that ending was incredible. That was such a perfect way to end the match. And someone mentioned how fluid the match was. That's what makes the match so great. It is so fluid. You don't see the spots being called. Everything is so believable, going moment to moment throughout the match. And then when that flip happens, and then the Bayley to belly thing is just so perfectly done, and the crowd is losing their minds, which is what you want when the 3 happens. Then you see Charlotte and Becky Lynch, who had turned on Bayley, come into the match, breaking kayfabe, coming in there. And then, of course, eventually Sasha come in, and all 4 of the women hugging a la the Click from way back when, the 4 horsewomen doing their thing, which was great to see. And one of those rare moments that you get to see where people break character out of respect for what they've just witnessed. And yes, the Iron Woman match didn't live up to the hype as a sequel to this match. And really, honestly, not many sequels do to great matches. Not many sequels do. This one did not. It's still a good match, just not at that level that we saw between. There was just a hunger between both of these ladies in that first match to put on a hell of a match. I think they felt that this was an important match for them to showcase what these women could do. And it was one of the most important matches in the history of women's wrestling to get it to where it is now, the respected level that it is at now, with someone like Becky Lynch, who surprisingly has become the standout of the 4 women, who has kind of risen above the idea of pro wrestling itself. So that's been an incredible thing to witness. But both of these ladies deserve it on so many levels.
Listen, I know the show's gone a long time, probably the longest show we've ever done, but I'm going to have to push back on a couple things. Number one, yes. The Iconics, how dare you? Number one, Billy Kay and Peyton Royce, probably one of the most entertaining acts in the business. So I'm not mad that they won, that they beat Sasha and Bayley, the precious Sasha and Bayley, but I don't know if it's necessarily a racism angle with Sasha as to why she's not getting pushed. I mean, I think that they were afraid to go with her because of her back injury history. She had a lot of stuff going on. I just seemed to be injured a lot there for a while, but okay. I think maybe that's why they didn't go with her. But I think we're seeing a lot of what Sasha can do now that she's healthy. She's been healthy for a long time, and that her and Bayley in this second run could be better than they ever were before. And I also want to make just another comment. This isn't about anything you said, but in the match, you notice, like you were talking about how good a shape they're in. Yeah. Dude, Bayley's rocking some abs in this match. Like at one point where Sasha's rocking her up against the corner and doing that double knees, you have to have abs to sustain double knees to your stomach, or else it's going to hurt like a bitch. Yep. And Bayley has got some serious abs. So shout out to her for getting in some killer shape. I know she hides it a lot in the outfit she wears. It covers like 95% of her body, but lady is jacked. So good for her for putting in all that work. I do want to shout her out for there. But yes, I do cry watching this match. No, I don't care what you think about that. And I do cry about it because I think of what it did for women's wrestling. I think of what it does for people out there that have daughters, and I think about it for my friends that are wrestling fans that have little kids, and like, oh my gosh, or a girl like a Bayley that would look up to this match and say, oh my gosh, I can do it, I can do this. So look how great they are. So in that respect, I do cry about it because I know how important it is to the business.
Absolutely. Well, we should wrap up there, Aaron. As you said, it's our longest show ever at almost an hour and a half, so we should wrap it up. Thank you all so much for joining us live and for donating all the super chats and the Streamlabs that you did donate. If you're watching us later on after we've done this thing live, please hit that like button. If you're watching us live right now, hit that like button as well, and also leave comments in the chat after the show is over. If you're watching us after we've done this thing live, leave as many comments as possible down in the chat. The more comments you leave, let us know what's your favorite Taker moment. What was your reaction to the Sasha Bayley match? What's a better match than Sasha Bayley on the women's side of things that you've ever seen? Let us know your thoughts on these allegations and the wrestlers being fired, the Tessa Blanchard stuff, everything. The Undertaker, is it his last ride? Is it done once and for all? Let us know about the WWE testing. What's your feelings about Vince and what he's done to take care or not take care of those wrestlers? Leave us comments about all of that down there in the comment section below, and hit that like button. Aaron, where can they find you, my man?
You can find me at Only Aaron Turner on Twitter, where we can talk about wrestling, whatever else is going on. Next week, guys, Mr. Perfect versus Bret the Hitman Hart for the Intercontinental Championship, SummerSlam 91, one of my favorite matches of all time. I'm so excited to talk about that. So Strong Style is going to keep on rolling. Hopefully next week, I'll have some t-shirt news. Hopefully we can talk about that. Sean Barreto, your shirt is on the way, and I forget the name of the other guy that we gave away to, but your t-shirts are on the way. They will be there next week. Nice. So we'll talk about some t-shirts next week, and hopefully we'll have better wrestling news in the sense of happy stuff to talk about next week.
Would be nice. Two last comments I want to throw up in here. Christine, who sent us that lovely Streamlabs, she said, this match was truly the cultural reset of mainstream women's wrestling. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. And as I said, I've said this for quite some time, best match I've ever seen, regardless of gender, in the last 20 years. Just the best. Because of everything involved outside of it before the match happened, and the match itself, and then the ending of the match as well afterwards, with all those ladies in there giving each other a massive hug and crying at what they realized that they've done in the moment. And I think I had one more, maybe no. Oh, yes, there we go. William Me Pat agrees with you there, Aaron. It says, I as well leak out of my face holes watching the match. So there you go. Don't we all? All right, well, follow me at The Rocha Says on Twitter and on Instagram. I love talking wrestling as well with you all. And please don't forget about my Patreon right above my head, patreon.com/John Rocha. I'm about to go have an hour and a half hangout with my patrons. So at the $10 and above level on Zoom, I put that post in Patreon in case you're watching live and you want to jump on over there to hang out with me too. So there's a lot of tiers. We're dropping a bunch of shows now that are where patrons can participate in the show. We put it out for everybody to watch on the Outlaw Nation channel, but the patrons select questions, select movies, and participate in debate shows. So much going on for a patron who is part of the Outlaw Nation there as well. All right. This has been a wonderful show. I've enjoyed it. Aaron, I hope you feel better. Have a good rest of your weekend. My best to your lovely lady there. And we'll hang out again next week for another brand new episode of Strong Style.